The man had her brother's hair, but he was taller, and his eyes were dark indigo rather than lilac. Aegon, he said to a woman, nursing a newborn babe in a great wooden bed. What better name for a king? Will you make a song for him? The woman asked. He has a song, the man replied. He is the prince that was promised, and his song is the song of ice and fire. He looked up when he said it, and his eyes met Daenys, and it seemed as if he saw her standing there beyond the door. There must be one more, he said, though whether he was speaking to her or the woman in the bed she could not say. The dragon has 3 heads. Rhaegar Targaryen, in a vision of Daenerys, in the House of the Undying, A Clash of Kings chapter 48, Daenerys 4. Dragon dreams are a much bigger part of the narrative of A Song of Ice and Fire than you might first think, and while it appears at first there are only a few isolated occurrences of characters having them, the list is much longer than you might think. What is also vital about this idea of dragon dreams is the shadow it leaves over our story. From the doom of Valyria and Aegon's prophecy, the Dance of the Dragons and the Blackfyre rebellions, into the timeline of the main books, with the Mad King Aerys II, and of course Daenerys Targaryen. But here's the interesting thing about dragon dreams. A lot more characters seem to have had them than it first seems. So much so, the fact these people are, or might be dreamers, plays a huge part in the backstory and lore of the books, but also the future narrative. In this video, we're going to be breaking down and analysing every known instance of a dragon dreamer, as well as highlighting some of the characters with strong evidence suggesting they might also be a dreamer, and the implication their inclusion could have on the story. Some of these people might seem obvious, others not so much. We will also be touching upon some of the implications of House of the Dragon and its introduction of the idea of Aegon's prophecy. While normally when I talk about the HBO shows, I like to keep them separate from the lore of the book due to a lot of the changes the show makes that don't fit with the lore of the books. In the case of Aegon's prophecy, we do have to consider the fact, whether we like it or not, that we know the idea and suggestion came directly from George R. R. Martin himself, who at the end of the day is the authority when it comes to his own lore and the world building of his own books. There have always been Targaryens who dreamed of things to come, since long before the conquest. Brendan Rivers, to Dunk and Egg, a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, the Mystery Knight. There are many different types of prophetic dreams and visions in A Song of Ice and Fire, including the likes of green dreams and wolf dreams, but dragon dreams seem to only affect those with the blood of old Valyria. While in the context of our story, that means members of House Targaryen, by extension this would also include House Blackfyre, given that in essence they are in effect still Targaryens, being formed by Daemon Blackfyre, the bastard son of King Aegon IV and his cousin Princess Daena Targaryen. Technically, by extension, any house that descends from House Targaryen through a Targaryen woman marrying into that house could possess the ability to have these dreams. It should also be noted, even within House Targaryen, this ability seems to be a rare trait. This would imply it would seem it's even rarer or maybe even non-existent in houses outside the main Targaryen line. Dragon dreams seem to be in some manner prophetic in nature, and in many cases involve dragons or dragon symbology. Strictly speaking, no official term has been given to us for these dreams, but fans have come to call them dragon dreams, given Daenerys Targaryen thinks of one of her recurring dreams as a dragon dream. The proudest city in all the world was gone in an instant. The fabled empire vanished in a day. The lands of the long summer scorched and drowned and blighted. The thoughts of Tyrion Lannister on the doom of Valyria. A Dance with Dragons chapter 33, Tyrion 8. The first instance of a dreamer that we know of in lore is Daenys Targaryen, better known as well, Daenys the Dreamer. She was a member of House Targaryen prior to the Doom of Valyria, and is the reason the house still exists today. When Daenys was still a maiden, she had a powerful prophetic dream, showing the destruction of Valyria by fire. It seems that her dreams were taken seriously by her family, and in 114 BC, her father, Aegon Targaryen, heeded her warning, sold his holdings in the freehold, and moved his entire family and all their belongings to Dragonstone. including their 5 dragons. When the doom of Valyria came 12 years later, House Targaryen was the only family of dragon lords which survived. But more importantly for House Targaryen, following the warning of Daenys' dreams, it saved their entire house from an ensured destruction, along with the other dragon lords. Daenys would go on to marry her brother Daemon, who followed their father as Lord of Dragonstone, and they would go on to have several children. If the ability to dragon dream is in fact genetic, it is safe to assume it was passed down to the rest of House Targaryen via Daenys. On the other hand, it may be a wider ability all those with Valyrian blood have the possibility of developing, with it just being more likely in concentrated sources of Valyrian blood such as House Targaryen, whom were actively marrying siblings for generations after the Doom, whenever possible. One lingering question we have with Daenys is the statement that she was still a maiden when she had her dreams of the Doom. The way this is phrased suggests that after her marriage she lost the ability to dragon dream, which is a common fantasy trope when it comes to some of these prophetic magical abilities. However, the statement of her being a maiden might just be used to show the reader just how young Daenys was when she began having these dragon dreams. But the biggest takeaway from Daenys is the fact that she proves that these dreams are real and the events she foretold did come to pass. Interestingly, in the timeline of the main book series, it is believed that visions written down by Daenys before the Doom of Valyria were in a book called Signs and Portents, a book that is now lost. Allegedly at least, Archmaester Marwyn claims to have found 3 pages from it in his book of lost books, and I do wonder if it will come into play in the final books of the series in some way, or perhaps be connected to the book version of Aegon's prophecy, if it exists in the book at all. Aegon saw absolute darkness rising on those winds, and whatever dwelt within will destroy the world of the living. Viserys Targaryen to Rhaenyra, House the Dragon Season 1, Episode 1. After Daenys, the next dragon dreamer we know about is potentially Aegon the Conqueror. However, this idea's status in canon is highly debated, and there is no clear-cut answer. I can't even make my mind up as to where I sit on the matter, but there is one key reason why I've decided to include Aegon in this video. The inclusion of Aegon's prophecy in House the Dragon is fundamentally key to the plot, with variations of the idea of Aegon's prophecy being semi-popular fan theories for decades at this point. The concept of Aegon's prophecy does fit into the books, and would answer a lot of unanswered questions. Normally when it comes to the HBO shows, I stand by George R. R. Martin's view that the show is the show and the book is the book. They are 2 separate entities and different canons, 2 sides of the same coin. What makes the canon status of Aegon's prophecy so complicated is it has been confirmed by Ryan Condal, the showrunner of House the Dragon, that the idea of Aegon's prophecy came directly from George R. R. Martin when developing Season 1. As we know, George did also give David Benioff and D.B. Weiss key bits of information from future books, such as the identity of Jon's parents and the true nature of Hodor, so it's not unreasonable to assume this could also be the case with Aegon's prophecy. For me, only authority on the lore of A Song of Ice and Fire is George R. R. Martin himself, and with this idea coming directly from him, it's hard not to view it, or at least play with the idea of Aegon's prophecy as part of the book canon. Aegon's prophecy in the show relates to the coming of the Long Night and the White Walkers, with the coming doom being his motivation for the conquest of Westeros, with the secret being passed to king for generations, until we get to the Dance of the Dragons, where I assume it will be lost. Thus why it's forgotten by the time of the main book series and TV show. Some, however, do believe that Rhaegar Targaryen, and by extension Maester Aemon, learned of the prophecy in some way, leading to Rhaegar's belief he needed to recreate the 3 heads of the dragon, which ultimately led to the kidnap of Lyanna Stark, and thus setting up all the events of the main books. The dream was clearer than a memory. Our son was born wearing Aegon's iron crown. Viserys Targaryen to Aemma Arryn, House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 1. The inclusion of King Viserys I and Helaena Targaryen on this list of known dreamers is even more dubious than Aegon. In Fire and Blood, there is absolutely no indication at all that King Viserys was a dreamer, but What's interesting is House of the Dragon leaves it ambiguous as to if Viserys really is a dreamer or not. We know he liked the idea of being a dreamer and desperately wanted to be one, but we know of only one dream Viserys had, and without any indication of any more prophetic visions, it's impossible to rule out it just being a coincidence, despite how accurate this dream turned out to be, even if he misunderstood it. Viserys' dream does give the viewer an important lesson about these kinds of visions. They can be misleading and vague and open to interpretation. In Viserys' case, he saw what he wanted to see in his dream. To quote Viserys, "The dream was clearer than a memory. Our son was born wearing Aegon's iron crown, and I heard the sound of splintering shields and ringing swords, and I placed our son upon the iron throne, as the bells of the great sept tolled, and all the dragons roared as one. The dream did come true, but not the way he intended it or wanted it to. His son Aegon II was placed upon the iron throne. He wore Aegon the Conqueror's crown. The bells of the sept rung out to gather the small folk in the dragon pit, where the dragons in turn roared as Rhaenys escaped, and thus shields splintered and swords rung out as the dance of the dragons began. The dream did come true, just not the way he expected. But here's the thing, even if Viserys did have dragon dreams, it seems like he had only the one, as per his conversation with Alicent during episode 3 of season 1. So if he was truly a dreamer, he wasn't a very powerful one, and certainly not as prolific as others on this list. In terms of the show, it's fair to include him on the list, but unlike Aegon the Conqueror, I have a hard time justifying any of this as canon to the books. Helaena is another case with House of the Dragon, where in the books there is absolutely no indication she is a dreamer or has any prophetic power at all. However, given the role of prophecy in House of the Dragon, making her one, and thus her role in the story, narratively fits well. What I find ironic about Helaena being a dreamer is Viserys, her father, so badly wanted to be one, while most of his family just sees Helaena as odd and disconnected. If anyone should have noticed her power, it should have been her father. But he's so disconnected from his children with Alicent and so absent that he doesn't notice. But in a way, I think that sums up Viserys as a character really well. Aegon was the son he always wanted to have. Helaena possessed the power he always wanted to possess. And Aemon is the skilled warrior and dragon rider he wished he had been. But because of the disconnect with his children with Alicent, he never sees these elements within them. Helaena is what I describe as a true dreamer. She clearly has a strong connection to this power. Her father doesn't. I kind of think Helaena is a reflection as to how Daenys the Dreamer would have been as a person. If it turns out that Helaena is a dreamer in the books, I really don't hate the idea. I think it could fit really well into the story. But now, let's just leave the House of the Dragon aspect behind and focus solely on the books. My dreams are not like yours, Sir Duncan. Mine are true. Daeron the Drunken, to Duncan the Tall, a knight at the Seven Kingdoms, the Hedge Knight. The next clear dragon dreamer is someone we meet very early on in the first Duncan Egg novella, the Hedge Knight. The eldest son of Maester Targaryen, later King Maester, Prince Daeron the Drunken. Before the events of the story, Maester sends his sons, specifically Daeron and Aegon and Aerion, to the tourney at Ashford Meadow, hoping they would outshine the sons of his brother, Baelor Breakspear. As he was uninterested in participating in the tourney, Daeron stole away from his escort, taking Aegon with him. He shaved Aegon's head to hide his Targaryen features. Daeron himself did not possess Valyrian traits, thus it was easy for him to hide himself. He began drinking at a nearby inn when he encountered Sir Duncan the Tall. This is where we first get an idea he may in fact be a dreamer, when Daeron tells Duncan that he had dreamed of him, ordering Dunk to stay away from him. Aegon, who wanted to participate in the tourney, stayed hidden under the guise of Egg and asked Duncan if he could be his squire. Though Duncan denied him this, Aegon left the inn and followed him to Ashford anyway. Maester sent Sir Roland Crakehall of the Kingsguard in search of Daeron and Aegon, then left Ashford to search for them himself. When Daeron was found, he told his father that a huge robber knight had made off with his brother, and that he spent the whole time pursuing them. This lie added evidence against Duncan, after he was arrested for assaulting Aerion Targaryen at the tourney. Daeron would later apologise to Dunk for lying, saying he had not even noticed Aegon had gone. He also said he dreamed a great dragon would fall on Dunk, dead, but the knight would walk off alive. Daeron did not know what it meant, but that his dreams had proven to come true, and that he was frightened of Dunk. Daeron also told Dunk that he would not fight him in the trial of 7, and after the first charge, he would stay on the ground and would also withdraw his accusations against Duncan. In the trial of 7 itself, Daeron was indeed unhorsed by Sir Robin Rysling, and did as he promised, staying on the ground. Nevertheless, it turned out that Daeron's dream was a true prophecy, as Prince Baelor died from injuries sustained during the trial, dying in Dunk's arms. So while Daeron was unable to correctly interpret his dream, what he foresaw did come to pass. Given Daeron's conversations with Duncan, it's implied that he's had several other dreams that have also come true. That's why he was so fearful of Duncan given the context of his dream. We also know via Egg in the Mystery Night that Daeron had dreamed that someday dragons will return, and while Aegon is wrong in the hope that it would be his egg to hatch, given the context of the main books, Daeron's dream was indeed correct. It does seem these dragon dreams had a negative impact on Daeron as a person, with it being implied his constant drinking is down to his dragon dreams, and the burden they placed on him. This highlights 2 questions. Do all dreamers struggle with this power? From what we can tell, Daenys the Dreamer didn't have any negative impacts on her dreams, but it would also go a long way in explaining why maybe some other Targaryens to come, who too might have had dragon dreams, were mentally fragile, and perhaps in some cases, mad. Aerion is quite the monster. He thinks he's a dragon in human form. You know, that's why he was so wroth at the puppet show. A pity he wasn't born a Fossaway. Then he'd think himself an apple, and we'd all be a deal safer. But there you are, Daeron Targaryen, the Duncan the Tall, a knight of the 7 kingdoms, the Hedge Knight. There's actually a lot of suggestion that all of Maekar's sons had some form of dragon dreaming ability, albeit not to the same extent as Daeron. Aerion Brightflame presents an interesting case. While we cannot state he was a dragon dreamer for sure, there's enough contextual clues to speculate that in some way he was. Aerion believed he was physically a dragon in human form, which may have contributed to his arrogance and attitude towards those he believed were lesser of him. This belief and obsession with this idea of being a dragon would lead to his death when he consumed wildfire, thinking by doing so it would turn him into an actual dragon. What many have speculated, that it was some form of dragon dream regarding the return of dragons that Aerion misinterpreted or didn't understand, which led to him believing he was physically a dragon. In fact, Maester Aemon certainly believes that dragon dreams led to the demise of all of his brothers, which to some extent is true. Daeron, while he did die of a pox he caught from a whore, it is tangentially linked to his excessive drinking, caused by his struggles with dragon dreams. Aerion's dreams seem to have made him believe he was a dragon in human form, thus leading to his death by wildfire. And Egg? Well, I think it's only right we go into some more detail with his apparent dragon dreams. Someday, the dragons will return. My brother Daeron dreamed of it, and King Aerys read it in a prophecy. Maybe it will be my egg that hatches. That would be splendid. Egg to Duncan the Tall, a knight of the 7 kingdoms, the Mystery Knight. The idea of King Aegon V, otherwise known as Egg, also being a dragon dreamer has been a debated topic amongst fans since the publication of the first novella. While there is certainly some evidence that suggests he could be, there is no real smoking gun. Much of Aegon V's fate is surrounded in mystery, with the events at Summerhall, events George R. R. Martin is keeping close to his chest until he's ready to reveal them should the Duncan Egg novellas ever reach that far. But from what we know, it does seem that Aegon was trying to hatch dragons, and burns down the palace of Summerhall, killing most of the royal family, as well as Sir Duncan, who seems to have died rescuing the pregnant Rhaegar Targaryen, who would go on to give birth to Prince Rhaegar moments later. The impact of the events of Summerhall have on the main narrative of the books cannot be understated. Yet for something so vital, we have no real idea of exactly what happened and why. Some fans believe Aegon had dragon dreams that led him to attempt to bring back dragons, while others argued the events of Summerhall were an end result of his misunderstandings of the dreams of those around him, such as his brother Daeron, as well as the countless other prophecies that have been uncovered relating to dragons. I would not be surprised to think that it's likely that Aegon is a dreamer, given that his 3 brothers all had some level of dreaming ability. But regardless as to if Aegon is a dreamer or not, the lesson to take away from his story still stands. Prophecy and dreams are dangerous business. They are not clear, and are very much open to interpretation, something that can lead you down a deadly path if you get it wrong, or put too much faith into the unknown. The last dragon died before you were born. How could you remember them? I see them in my dreams, Sam. I see a red star bleeding in the sky. I still remember red. I see their shadows on the snow, hear the cracks of leathern wings, feel their hot breaths. My brothers dreamed of dragons too, and the dreams killed them, every one. Sam, we tremble on the cusp of half-remembered prophecies, of wonders and terrors that no man now living could hope to comprehend. Samwell Tarly and Maester Aemon Targaryen, A Feast for Crows, Chapter 26, Samwell 3. I think it's very clear that Maester Aemon Targaryen is likely a dreamer in some capacity. It's not wholly clear if he has always been a dreamer, say in his youth, but certainly towards the end of his life, Aemon is having undeniable prophetic dreams, even if the man himself is not wholly aware that's what's happening. I think Aemon's dreams become more clear as he weakens in the weeks before his death. He spends a lot of time sleeping, and he occasionally calls out for Sam, insisting that he had something important to tell him, more and more often than not, forgetting what it was he needed to say so badly by the time Sam arrives to Aemon. In the very few times he does actually recall what he wanted to say, his speech and comprehension are very jumbled and messy. He spoke of dreams but never named the dreamer. Were they his brothers? Or his own dreams? He made reference, I think, to the glass candles at the Citadel of Old Town that could not be lit. And he also talked dragon eggs that would not hatch. Cryptically said the Sphinx was the riddle, not the riddler. He also asked Sam to read from him by the books of Set and Bath, whose writings had been burned during the reign of Baelor the Blessed, which likely contained key information about dragon lore. One time he woke up weeping and wailing. The dragon must have 3 heads. But I am too old to be one of them. I should be with her, showing her the way. My body has betrayed me. This indicates that he was aware of Rhaegar's ideas around the prince that was promised, which is not surprising given he was in communication with Rhaegar, but he also believed that Daenerys was the prince that was promised. The fact Aemon saw Daenerys' dragons in a dream proves he was a dreamer, but it's also very clear he was greatly influenced by the dreams of his brothers as well. This pale white castle, you, a dragon bursting from an egg. I dreamt it all. Just as once I dreamt of my brothers lying dead. They were 12, and I was only 7. So they laughed at me and died. I'm 22 now, and I trust in my dreams. Daemon the Second Blackfyre to Duncan the Tall, a knight of the 7 kingdoms, the Mystery Knight. Daemon the Second Blackfyre is arguably one of the few dragon dreamers we can say with 100% certainty is a dragon dreamer, thanks to his role in the novella The Mystery Knight. Being one of the sons of Daemon the First Blackfyre, it means he descends directly from King Aegon IV and Daenerys Targaryen. House Blackfyre is a cadet branch of House Targaryen, but due to the incestuous nature of House Targaryen, House Blackfyre is not a normal cadet house. They are as effectively as Targaryen as House Targaryen themselves. Thus, don't just have the old Valyrian look, but abilities such as dragon dreams have also been passed down. Daemon the Second Blackfyre clearly has several dragon dreams that turn out to be true, even if, again, there was a lot of misinterpretation of their meaning. Not only did Daemon dream a cryptic version of events to occur in the Mystery Knight, but he also, as a child, seemed to have dreamt of the events of the Battle of the Redgrass Field during the First Blackfyre Rebellion, seeing the deaths of his 2 elder brothers. We also find out that Daemon II has dreamed of Duncan becoming a Knight of the Kingsguard, which, as we know, he eventually does. Daemon again is a perfect lesson with the tricky nature of dragon dreams and how easy it is for them to be misunderstood, which can often lead you down a path of your own doom. Speaking of the Great Bastards, some have wondered if Bloodraven, bred in rivers, was also a dragon dreamer, given his Targaryen blood. Bloodraven presents us with an interesting mix of bloodlines. While he is half Targaryen on his father's side, thus has the potential for dragon dreams, he is also half Blackwood on his mother's side, a house with First Men origin. We know Bloodraven has power, and was involved in some dark arts and magic, specifically related to the old gods, but any dreaming ability he seems to have seems to be more closely related to the old gods, and being a green seer than anything else. But that does beg the question as to how much difference there truly is between a green dream and a dragon dream. They do seem to produce cryptic dreams and premonitions that are easy to misinterpret, but it also seems the method used to achieve these dreams is functionally different. While Bloodraven could very well possess the ability to dragon dream, it seems it's far surpassed by his ability as a green seer. Let him be king over charred bone and cooked meat. Let him be the king of ashes. Aerys II Targaryen to Wisdom Rhaegar, A Clash of Kings Chapter 48, Daenerys 4. There has always been a lot of theories that dragon dreams caused King Aerys II Targaryen to slip into madness, with the idea becoming even more popular since the 6th season of Game of Thrones, which showed a brief clip of the Mad King in one of Bran Stark's visions while he was on the way to see the Three-Eyed Crow beyond the wall. As we've learned so far in this video, some handle dragon dreams better than others, with Daeron a good example of someone who struggled, resorting to drinking. And while on the surface the idea that Aerys' madness was caused by dragon dreams might fit, there's already a much more workable solution that narratively fits better and packs more of an impact. For much of his life, Aerys seemed to have been a relatively normal person, but it's clear that his months as a captive during the Defiance of Duskendale mentally broke Aerys. It really is a before and after type event. He was never the same. He was clearly carrying some bad post-traumatic stress, which when combined with several other clear mental illnesses he developed that grew worse after Duskendale, created a man we know as the Mad King. While it's certainly possible that Aerys had dragon dreams, and that too factored into his mental decline, I think it would cheapen the shit impact his mental decline had on the narrative, but if it did turn out to be true, I can't complain, given it would too narratively work, albeit in a different manner. Rhaegar fought valiantly, Rhaegar fought nobly, Rhaegar fought honourably, and Rhaegar died. Jorah Mormont to Daenerys Targaryen, A Storm of Swords Chapter 23, Daenerys 2. Much like the Mad King, many speculate that Rhaegar Targaryen had dragon dreams, which factored into his melancholy and sense of purpose. To many, the idea of Rhaegar being a dragon dreamer would explain a lot of his actions and motivations in the lead up to Robert's rebellion, but I think the books already do a good job of explaining why Rhaegar acted the way he did. Rhaegar was obsessed with prophecy. From reading about the prophecies of the prince that was promised, he believed he was the prince, then believed his son was the prince, and then that he needed 3 children, which in turn led to his kidnap of Lyanna Stark. But it's likely, if he had found records of the prince that was promised, he found records of many other prophecies as well. We must also recall he was in direct communication with Maester Aemon, who likely could have told Rhaegar about the dreams of the likes of Daeron, Aerion, and Egg, and maybe even Daemon II Blackfyre. We also know that King Aerys I, at the same time as Maester's children were having their dragon dreams, was likely researching prophecy to some degree. Thus, any information Aerys I found could have been passed on to Rhaegar via Aemon. So Rhaegar doesn't need to be a dragon dreamer to have the knowledge he has, and the motivation to fulfill these prophecies. They may not be his dreams, but he can still believe the dreamers. Could he still be a dreamer? Yes. But like Aerys II, I think it narratively fits his character better if he was not. The frightened child who shouted in my manse died on the Dothraki Sea and was reborn in blood and fire. This dragon queen who wears her name is a true Targaryen. Ilaria Mopatis and Tyrion Lannister. A Dance with Dragons Chapter 5, Tyrion 2. Daenerys Targaryen is by far the clearest case of a dragon dreamer we have, and for most fans is their first exposure to the idea of dragon dreams, even if they are not yet fully aware what they are. Daenerys has several dreams throughout the whole series, so many they really deserve to be at the focus of their own video, which is a project that I'm working on. but there is some confusion for some fans about which of Daenerys' dreams are in fact dragon dreams and are not some other phenomenon. Because, as it turns out, Daenerys has a crazy amount of dreams and visions from differing sources. For example, she has dreams and visions of Quaithe across the series, with it still not even clear to the reader the true nature of these dreams and the purpose of Quaithe. But what we can say is these are not dragon dreams. Some also conflate the visions that Daenerys is shown inside the House of the Undying as dragon dreams, when again, like Quaithe, they are something very different we don't know the true nature of. And as compelling as they are again different from what I'd call a dragon dream. In this video I want to briefly take a look at Daenerys' dreams from the first book, specifically because it really shows how her dreams progressed and came true, even if the outcome is not something you'd expect reading the book for the first time. Even before her marriage to Khal Drogo, Daenerys is having dragon dreams that allude to the fact she will birth some kind of deformed dragon baby, which of course she does. Even as far back as the first dream, there is also many indications pointing towards the return of dragons, with references to Drogon and his black wings, a theme that follows through all of Daenerys' Game of Thrones dragon dreams. Around the time of Rhaegar's conception, she has dragon dreams that directly allude to her becoming pregnant, again with the theme of the black dragon. Most of these dreams in the first book seem to be about the hatching of her dragon eggs. What's so interesting about the way George has written these dreams, when you reread the book for the first time with knowledge of what's to come, these dreams take on whole new meanings. After the hatching of the dragons, the dragon dreams seem to shift in theme, with many now alluding to the Long Night and the White Walkers, among other things. Daenerys and dreams go hand in hand. We have her dragon dreams, the visions of Quaithe, the visions from the House of the Undying, with all these story elements playing a huge role into the plot to come. That's why Daenerys will be getting her own video soon, where I will break down and analyse each of these dreams. So far the script is sitting at around half an hour, and I'm only halfway done with it, so keep an eye out for that video coming in the next few weeks. I had bad dreams about the dragons. They were coming to eat me. Shireen Baratheon to Maester Aemon, A Clash of Kings prologue. I want to end this video by talking about a candidate that I think could very well be having dragon dreams, Shireen Baratheon. While not a Targaryen, House Baratheon, like House Blackfyre, are technically a cadet branch of House Targaryen, descending from Orys Baratheon, who was Aegon the Conqueror's bastard half-brother. They have even more recent Targaryen blood, via Rhaegar Targaryen, who was the grandmother of Robert, Stannis and Renly Baratheon. So is it possible a Baratheon could dragon dream? From the moment we meet Shireen, there are clues suggesting there is more to her than meets the eye. Specifically, in the prologue of A Clash of Kings, Shireen claims to be having bad dreams about dragons coming to eat her, which coincidentally would be around the same time that Daenerys hatched her dragons in Essos, given the presence of the Red Comet. If we know anything about dragon dreams, this should not be taken explicitly literally, but this could be an indication as to Shireen's fate, or perhaps even the fate of House Baratheon, with House Targaryen now coming back to take the throne. The reason I don't think this is a coincidence is because we learn Shireen has been plagued by nightmares all her life, setting up a history of these possible prophetic, disturbing dreams. While we'll have to wait and see if her dreams do in fact come true on a more wider context, given her fate in the show, I think it's very possible it turns out her so-called bad dreams are in fact dragon dreams that come true, giving Shireen in the book as just as dark a fate as her show counterpart.